The Titans changed their coach, the Habs changed their GM, and the Blue Jays changed their ace. All that and more, it's Sports QuaranTV. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. Chris Dobson, Gerry Green coming at you. Gerry, we've got a action-packed show jammed in for you tonight. We're going to get right into it, right off the hop. We talked about it. We teased it in the opener. Coaching change at the helm at Acadie Bathurst and both Cape Breton. I mean, was this surprising to you?
No, I think specifically Acadie Bathurst, I think they're underwhelming. They're playing 500 hockey, and they've got a roster and have added Hendrix Lapierre to it, and nothing seemed to jump. There never seemed to be any extra insurgence of energy into the lineup, and they lost some games that I thought they shouldn't have lost, especially on home ice. And you can't be losing games on home ice with the quality that they have in their lineup on paper, Chris. So DeRoche had to go. Leland held the fort there for a little bit, but now they've added Jason Clark. And Jason Clark, Chris, is coming from really a very successful time spent in Junior A hockey in Ontario, but successful from ownership all the way down to coach.
Right. At the same, I mean, don't forget Jason Clark also coming from Shawinigan too. He's had some experience with QMJHL as an assistant coach there. But you're right. I mean, to me, you've got this roster on paper. The Memorial Cup is in the QMJHL this year. We've been talking about it all season long with our show. The Acadie Bathurst has a chance to contend here. They're a good club, and just getting Hendrix Lapierre back in the lineup, this is, they're getting this done now before the Christmas season starts. I think it was a much needed change. They needed to change at the helm. Maybe, DeRoche was losing the room. Maybe the players weren't responding. Either way, this is a good change for them.
Yeah, and Clark gets a taste of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League in Shawinigan as an associate coach. But, it doesn't matter, and I emphasize that it was Junior A where he had the success. It doesn't matter. It's the same age group of players. And long as you're able to communicate and know the mentality of this this age group of players in this generation, I think he'll be fine. So, and I also love Chris. No retread here. It's a new face. He hasn't been bounced around the league and now ends up in Bathurst. I love what they've done up there.
Just quickly before we move on, I was looking at his pedigree to see what kind of, if he's what his winning pedigree looks like. And he's got some pretty serious hardware under his belt, Jerry. I mean, from 2014 to 2017, he won the Bogart Cup 4 times. He's also won the Fred Page Cup from 2014 to 2016. He's won it 3 times as well. He's no stranger to winning, and he's going to take that attitude and mentality and bring it into the Acadie Bathurst Titan. I'm excited. Again, just to mention, quick topic off the top, we talked about it. There's not a story like this, but Jake Grimes has moved on from the Cape Breton Eagles organization as well. So the interim coach will be their assistant coach who was down there. Just took some time for personal reasons. The organization says they will not address the matter any further. We wish Grimes all the best. I hope everything's well there. But interesting to see, 3 weeks before Christmas, some coaching changes are starting to take place.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they've lost their last 4 as Cape Breton. They sit on bottom of the standings with just 6 victories. And a little bit of a surprise for me. I didn't think that would be that much of a struggle for them this year, but things don't seem to be right in Cape Breton.
So we're not going to go too deep into it, but there's an interesting topic. The World Junior Selection Camp was announced today. On that roster, there was 7 Quebec Major Junior Hockey players who were invited to camp. Some of the notable players, there was one defenseman, of course, no surprise, Lucas Cormier out of Charlottetown. If you look at some of the forwards who are heading over there, number 1, we were looking at it. That's what Xavier Bogart and Maverick Burke. Okay, they lead the way. Then you got Zach Dean. Then you got Elliot Desnoyers, former Wildcat, current Moosehead. Hendrix Lapierre, no shock there.
William DeFore, who's one of the top goal scorers in the country. Yes, go ahead.
But no goaltenders.
Right, no goaltenders, one defenseman, of which Quebec used to be known. The Quebec League used to be known for goaltenders. And Joshua Waugh's going too, Chris, and I think fully deserved. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he makes that team, because he sits on top of the individual scoring parade, near the top anyways, and has seemed to have developed quite an attitude and quite a conditioning and strength that he's built up and so forth. So I hope the best for him. I've been watching him very closely ever since he left St. John. So we just hope the best for him and all those that are going to take part in that camp. And speaking of St. John, Chris, I was intrigued to see St. John maybe have turned a corner a little bit. They're winning some close games. And Josh Lawrence and William DeFore has really become quite a dynamic duo, if you will, in the Maritime Division. Josh Lawrence should be acknowledged for the way he's developed, he's one of the top faceoff guys in the league. He's got 19 points in the month of November, 6 goals and 13 assists for 19 points. He had points in 10 of the 11 games St. John played in the month of November. And heretofore, on the other side of it, 18 goals to lead the league. And he's got an 11-game point streak. It seems like they've got quite a dynamic duo there in St. John as they start to surge ahead and now are in second place in the Maritime Division.
Yeah, don't look now. They're making waves, and they're still waiting on word from the Stockton Heat on whether or not they're going to send Yan Kuznetsov back to help bolster that blue line as well. They still have a spot for an import, but you're right, Jerry. St. John's taken off. I think they're 4-0-1 in their last 5. But overall, let's move on, Jerry. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to hit the NHL. Big news coming out of my Montreal Canadiens camp. Bergevin finally out. Fans have been clamoring for it for a long time. I personally don't understand why. I don't think he's done a bad job. You can't do both roles. That was the one part to me that I didn't like. They had the same guy doing the GM and the president of hockey operations, and it's not junior hockey anymore. This is the National Hockey League, and you should have people doing separate roles. I loved his passion. I love the way he talked about his players. You saw that he loved every one of them. You look at a lot of the trades he's put on paper today. Some of them panned out, some of them didn't, but overall I think Bergevin did a hell of a job, and but a change was needed.
Yeah, well, is a change needed, Chris, because they're off to a horrible start? Okay, get rid of the coach then. Ducharme,
don't even get me started. We only have
8 parachutes in there from Julian, who laid the groundwork, and they went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. This gets me irritated because I have been a Bergevin fan, so to speak, because I love the way he dresses and I love his hair and that type of thing. But I think he's done a good job. Who is going to be better the next year without Carey Price in the net and Shea Weber on the blue line? I mean, you've got that problem to begin with just to start the season. So how can you pin it on him? I think it reflects back to the draft picks and the way they handled the draft and how that sat very irritated, let's say, maybe the ownership, that they said, we're looking for one little more stumbling block here and we're going to get him out. I think they were embarrassed by that pick.
Maybe, but Jeff Molson made it very clear in his press conference that pick had nothing to do with this, which again had to be said. Overall, I will say this before we talk about the guy who is coming in to make things right, and I agree with that's happening. I've got to talk about Dom Ducharme quickly because I absolutely agree with you. This guy is such a donkey. I don't understand for the life of me. You look at what he's doing to Cole Caulfield right now. They're talking about this regime coming on in. Cole Caulfield's playing 5 minutes a game right now. 5.5 minutes a game. This guy was on fire in the postseason last year, played a few games this year. They moved him down to Laval for confidence reasons. All of a sudden, Nick Suzuki's not playing the ice time he used to play. But what's happening? Cedric Paquette's going to be healthy. Chris Weidman's going to be healthy. And in Ducharme's press conference this week, he said, with my guys coming back who are healthy, who knows where Cole Caulfield's going to end up? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to head to the unemployment line right now.
It's hard to believe when you want those draft picks to be developing, and how better a pressure cooker than the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals, so to speak, and how Caulfield and Suzuki were very successful. How can you then take them out of that spotlight and leadership roles, if you will, even as young players, and again, demote them, or demote him, Caulfield, to Laval? It doesn't make sense.
So the guy they're bringing in, Jeff Gorton, that's the guy they're coming on in to, the peacemaker in regards to the whole francophone, anglophone situation going on in Montreal. A lot of people want to know, Jerry, who is Jeff Gorton? What is his pedigree? What's he been involved with? He started out his tenure in Boston. He was with the Bruins. He was a director of scouting from 94 to 2006. He made his way up to the assistant GM role. He saw the development. Maybe you've heard of these guys before. Correct me. Stop me if you haven't. Joe Thornton, Kyle McLaren, Sergei Samsonov. You look at all the guys he had in the system: Phil Kessel, Lucic, Brad Marchand on the draft 2006, traded for Tuukka Rask, signed Zdeno Chara and Mark Savard. And that's just his work in Boston. Then he goes to New York as the director of player personnel for the Rangers under Glenn Sather, the legend. Once he took over GM of the Rangers, Gorton began the rebuilding process. He was able to trade, Zibanejad, sells off assets in McDonough, Rick Nash for other futures. You look at the things he's done. This is what Montreal needs right now. You need a guy to come on in here, and I hate to say it, Brendan Gallagher probably going to be the guy who's going to go. And I love Brendan Gallagher. Should he be the next captain? He should be, but he won't be. The refs won't talk to him, so it doesn't make sense. I think Nick Suzuki's your future captain there. His value's at an all-time high. Gorton might be the guy to make that happen.
Yeah, and Chris, do they require I mean, I remember when Bob Gainey was GM in Montreal. I don't know how good Bob Gainey's French was, but do they need to have, and is it a prerequisite that you have to have a bilingual general manager?
So this is a great question, and I know that it frustrates a lot of fans. And the answer is this: no, but yes. The media have basically come on out and said, and I don't want to complicate it, but it's a matter of how frustrating it is because you are going to have to speak to the French media. But take the fact that it's hockey out of it. Go to any other sport, baseball, NBA, doesn't matter. If you're bringing in somebody who doesn't speak the language, hire a damn translator. That's all I'll say about that. Jerry, let's move on. Brandon Lemieux, quickly, 5 games for the bite. What's your thought on that?
Oh, goodness. In the heat of passion, yes. But again, biting is not allowed. Licking's not allowed either, as Brad Marchand. You can't do that either. But you can't be biting.
Nor somebody. You slew for it.
It really wasn't any sort of highly emotional event that made him so angry that he had to bite, Brady Tkachuk's hand. No, 5 games. He could have got more very easily. And so I tip my hat to the NHL for that. But he's known for doing some pretty crazy things.
No, and I agree. And again, you saw the press conference and how heated Tkachuk was over the situation, rightfully so. I mean, Drew Blood, the hand looked pretty gross for a minute, although there's talks about him appealing it for some reason. I don't know why he would do that, but overall, I agree. There's no room for that in the game. Jack Hughes extension, Jerry, do you like that, or is it a bit too much? I think it was 8 years, $64 million.
Well, it's, how again, we've seen it in baseball. You get a very small sample of what a player might be or could be. And you open the bank and hand them not only term, but money on top of it. It confuses me a little bit.
All right. And let's talk on a topic that, for those who didn't pay attention last week, Jack Campbell, Jerry, is there any chance he could be the number 1 goaltender for Team USA in Beijing?
Ask anybody at the Toronto Sports Network. Yeah, he probably could be, and that he's the next coming of the savior again that they have in their nets as they've had many times before. They've got a lot of great goaltenders. Hellebuck is again from the U.S. too, Chris. They've got a lot to choose for, more than Canada does. But I looked at some stats this week, Chris, about Ovechkin and what Washington is doing now. They've moved up in the Metro Division, lead that division, and Ovechkin. 27 points, second in scoring behind Draisaitl, in between McDavid. Does that surprise you when I say that to you?
Yes and no. Alexander Ovechkin never surprises me, but ultimately a lot of people were talking that, the speculation, did COVID last year ruin his chances to chase the record? Well, no, it hasn't. He looks unbelievable right now. And watching him do what he's doing this year in Washington, he looks like a rejuvenated young Alexander Ovechkin. Not shocked at all.
Chris, 19 goals in 23 games. You prorate that over the 82-game schedule, he could get 67 goals. Now, when you prorate something after 23 games, but here he is. He's just 17 behind Jaromir Jagr for 3rd overall behind, of course, Mr. Hockey and the great one. And that will be a tough one to catch, is the great one. He could catch Mr. Hockey, that's for sure, who has 801, and currently Ovechkin sits at 749.
I want to ask you a question just because we've got a couple more NHL minutes left here. And have you been paying attention? Do you like the shiny buckets that the Kings are now adapting that Vegas took to? Have you seen them?
Yeah, I didn't like it. No, I like the gold better than the silver. It's not, It's certainly not my cup of tea. But the gold is, I love everything that Vegas does with their uniforms and such, but no, the silver didn't turn me on at all because it doesn't seem to match the uniform as well as the gold did in Vegas.
Is there anything surprising you so far about this NHL season that, maybe speculation wise, you're like, oh, I wonder, I mean, the Leafs are hot. They're always hot at this point of the year. Is there anything that, a storyline that has kind of piqued your interest a little bit?
Well, I feel sorry, Chris, for the New York Islanders. They had to spend the first bit on the road, and then they get to their new home and they stink that up. And now I think they're sitting idle because of COVID. I mean, here is a team that was in the Final Four last year, just an overtime or a victory over Tampa Bay to get to the final. And here they are in the cellar of the Eastern Conference, and now sitting and waiting as they get cleared from COVID protocol.
All right, Jerry. So let's leave the ice surface and let's head to the ball diamond. It's good to talk baseball. The big news, of course, coming out of Toronto, Robbie Ray, Marcus Semien out, Kevin Gausman in. A lot of people ask the question right away. Who is Gausman? What's his deal? We lost Robbie Ray. Is it worth it? And every Blue Jays fan out there is excited because you're getting Gausman at a cheaper rate. We were talking in our group chat about the numbers, behind the scenes. And yeah, his numbers are on pace with Robbie Ray and what he's doing. You're getting a guy like him for cheaper. And for Blue Jays fans out there, people are going to notice the reason he wears the number he wears is because of Roy Halladay. I mean, you got to know that that's in the air, and he's going to be excited. It looked like he'll be wearing number 34.
There's a number of things for me here, Chris. He and Ray were the same age. Their records were comparable. Their strikeouts are comparable, even though Ray has an edge there. The whip is comparable. Their overall record, not only last year, but overall in their careers, is comparable. I like the fact that Gausman wanted to come to Toronto. Toronto actually wanted him last year and picked up Ray instead. And a story that came out today here, Steve Phillips, who's a well-known baseball insider, said that Ray was making the Blue Jays wait. And the Blue Jays couldn't take the chance of losing Ray and then trying to get back and get Gausman. Gausman could have been gone. They liked Gausman from the get-go, so they went and got him. So he wanted to come, and he comes from a pedigree of the San Francisco Giants, Chris, that I have no problem with. He can bring that into the clubhouse and be a leader.
No, and I agree. And if you look at some of the other moves that are rumors are speculating around the Jays right now, I mean, Freddie Freeman's another name they're looking to bring on in. I mean, that could be a huge bat for the Toronto Blue Jays, which would kind of shuffle the whole thing. Maybe Vladdy moves to third.
I don't like that, Chris. I thought Vladdy earned his stripes at first base last year. I do not want to move him. I think he's got the confidence there now.
I agree, but if you've got an opportunity to bring a guy like Freddie Freeman into your roster, you have to entertain it. I mean, maybe that conversation is taking place. Sorry, Jerry. Maybe that conversation is taking place with Vladdy. Maybe he's already up to it. Maybe they've already talked.
I think Atlanta's crazy to even have him on the market. Why don't they make him an offer, give him some fair money? He's taken you to the promised land. He's been there since day one. Why is Atlanta paying him?
Yeah, it's a great question. Who knows? Talking about Robbie Ray, he did sign a 5-year, $115 million deal with the Mariners. Did it surprise you that he got paid that much?
No, they said it was something like that going to come. And you see what Gausman's getting. And again, I said they got comparable records, but he does have a Cy Young that is part of his resume now. Speaking of Cy Youngs, I see Scherzer is now going to be teaming up with DeGrom with the Mets. They've got lots of money, and Scherzer's getting it, $43 million a year, Chris. 3 years, $130 million. The man is 37 years old?
Yeah, something like that. That's
36, 37. No, he's 37.
If you don't think that I've been keep forcing a ball into my son's left hand ever since he started walking, I'm like, that's $43 million arm right there, my friend. Between that and the other big contract signing that kind of shocked me from an age perspective is Semien got 7 years at $175 million with Texas.
Well, so Chris, didn't Semien want to basically leave Toronto because he wanted to play shortstop? Well, he's not playing shortstop in Texas because they signed Corey Seager from the Dodgers.
For $325 million.
He's some good, isn't he?
Oh my goodness. I would hope so, because I'll tell you right now, that's going to come back to bite them. I think, but Seager's a good ball player. And look, I think Texas is going to be a lot of fun. But overall, it's weird to see all these things coming up and the Yankees weren't involved, or the Red Sox for that.
Or the Red Sox. That's what they've been saying. All the smaller market teams are the ones that are going after it. And of course, there's a threat that there's going to be a strike. And it's almost like the owner is saying, look, we're going to spend some money. And they're all the Players Association is somewhat concerned about what the up and coming players are going to get, or what they can get, and how they've been restricted at times. So it's very interesting climate in Major League Baseball. And if there seems to be an underlying theme that there might not be baseball.
So let me ask you this then, in your honest opinion, do you think that we could see another lockout here in Major League Baseball? Do you think they'll figure this out?
Do you know baseball doesn't have a salary cap, and it's as a players association, isn't that just what you want? And so now you're striving for more. You want to protect those younger players that are coming up. Don't leave them in the minors too long. Make the proper moves with people's careers. I mean, I think you're nitpicking as a players association. They've got players making millions and millions of dollars to play baseball and throw baseballs and sit for half the game, play the other half. That's what I talk about baseball. They sit and watch half of it. Anyways.
But as far as I'm concerned, and I'll be honest, I wish every sport had the luxury tax option, because, and I'll tell you right now why. The salary cap, I understand it, but if you look at those small market teams out there who necessarily don't have the same payroll, they benefit financially from this luxury tax. I mean, that's where the money goes, right? So I also understand that big market teams like the Red Sox and the Red Sox and the Yankees, they can afford these $300 million deals, or apparently now Texas can. But ultimately, it's about winning. And in the last few years, it's proven that these teams who don't necessarily win all the time have been in the running. They've been winning some World Series out there. I think it's great.
Yeah, it has been. It's been fun to watch these signings and how it's added to the sports news that you get every day. But the numbers are just outrageous. And somebody tweeted out the other day comparing McDavid to was it Scherzer maybe? And Scherzer's getting $43 million a year to throw a ball.
Right.
And here's Connor McDavid working in blood, sweat, and tears out playing hockey for what, 11 or 12, per season.
Right. But again, that all comes down to advertising dollars.
Absolutely.
The amount
there's revenue there. I'm sorry. But it is kind of a shame as a Canadian
fully
to see
agree.
a hardworking, talented player like that.
Gary Bettman absolutely was just frothing at the mouth if he thinks he can start getting that kind of money. All right, Jerry, we got to move to the NFL. We've only got 5 minutes left. We're going to talk about the Colts first. The Colts-Bucks game last week. I thought that, that was the Colts game to lose. They looked good, although Tampa Bay stopped the run game. Jonathan Taylor couldn't get anything going, although we were joking around before the show started. You were like, why did you stop running the damn ball? And I'm like, because they couldn't run the ball. Carson Wentz looked okay. He made some great plays throughout the drive, but he had 2 massive turnovers, which basically
turnovers, Chris. That was the difference in that game. You're right. Turnovers were the difference. And penalties were the difference too. And I've noticed a lot in football lately. And football referees, they don't care where you are in the field. They don't care what time's on the clock. If they see a penalty, they throw a flag. And that's the way it should be in all sports.
Agreed.
But it's not necessarily true. So penalties were a big factor for Indianapolis, as well as turnovers, and an important game. But they've got another important game this week, Chris, as where's Indy playing? Aren't they playing somewhere this week, Chris? Or are they off?
No, I believe they're playing this week too.
Yes, okay. But the games to watch, I thought Washington beating Seattle kind of put the last nail in the coffin for Seattle. They're on their way down out of the echelon of NFL football. And they're going to play in Vegas against the Raiders, who upset Dallas on Thanksgiving. And those two teams are hovering around 500, which a lot of teams are, Chris. There's a lot of teams that are hovering around 5-6, 6-6, 6-5 that are still in a wild card position. It's going to be a fun second half of the season.
When's the last time you can go back and look at an NFL season and look how unorthodox teams that should be winning aren't winning, and how many upsets we've seen so far? I mean, it's been a wild season. And you were thinking Houston, Indies in Houston this week.
Oh, that's it.
But overall, there's been a lot of different upsets that have changed the entire wild card race in the NFL. It's been wild. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I see how the point after is starting to be a real factor in the games. Chris, I've loved the fact that they've moved it back. I was watching a CFL game, the playoffs this weekend, and there was a factor in that one too. They've moved it back in that league as well. I really like it's not an automatic thing anymore, and it really comes down to being a factor in games.
So let's talk about this week. What games are you looking forward to this week?
Well, my New England Patriots are playing Monday night against
Mac Jones, baby.
Buffalo Bills. The Bills were crowned and ready to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to win that AFC East. No. There's 6 games in a row. New England hammered the Titans last week in New England, and now they get to go to Buffalo. Buffalo, it's been their nemesis, the New England Patriots, but it's been Tom Brady and the New England Patriots have been their nemesis. So that'll be a great game on Monday night. And watch out, because Denver has to play Kansas City in Kansas City this week. Is Kansas City for real? Can Denver challenge? If Kansas City wins that one, I give Kansas City their division.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think you're starting to see Kansas City play the way everyone expected Kansas City to play. Yes, they started off the hop. Yes, it was fun to tease our producer for a while, but ultimately he's going to get the last laugh, because I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get it done. I don't think they're going to have a problem with Denver. I really don't. That's just my opinion. Regardless of, whether or not Denver's playing well or not, I think Kansas City's just back to being that elite team. And I think we're about to see this train start to roll moving into the postseason.
Yeah, I hope it will be a good game, but I've been impressed with what Green Bay did last week in handling the Rams, right. And now they get a bye week this week. So again, Aaron Rodgers is doing what he does after irritating everybody about not having been vaccinated or lied about it, but he still just turns the cheek and throws the ball down the field and making great plays, and their team's playing great defense.
Thank God he's playing good in real life, because he's absolute garbage in my Madden league online. I'll tell you that right now. Trash. But overall, you're right, though. Aaron Rodgers has looked good. Green Bay's looked good. The usual suspects are starting to look good. So I'm happy for them, and it's been a lot of fun in the NFL. Jerry, it's about that time. Everybody loves it. We love it. It's quick hit topic time. It's time for the wrap. Starting off the hop, Jerry, the AUS wraps up the schedule before Christmas. Can anyone catch the Reds?
The Reds are 15-1, Chris. They've got a goals against of 1.31. They're scoring over 4 goals a game. No, nobody can catch the Reds. 2 more games before the Christmas break. They return back in January. The Nationals are going to be hosted by Acadia this year in Halifax, so that'll be fun to see. Tiger Woods has made an appearance, Chris. What was he talking about?
Absolutely great to see Tiger Woods back on the podium talking about, his return to golf, what it was going to look like. He's still a ways away by the sounds of things, but at least he's addressing it. He's going to be able to pick and choose the tournaments he wants to play in. I love it. A lot of speculation he might join his son Charlie in a tournament coming up soon. That could be the first one, but we'll stay tuned. Jerry, the CFL West East Finals this weekend.
I'm excited. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to the final. They're going to beat Saskatchewan. I know that for a fact. And then Toronto's going to host Hamilton. The 2 plays in the Grey Cup. It'll be a fun weekend of cold football, probably snowing in both locations. That's what makes it the CFL. It seems like Evander Kane has got a vaccination, Chris. Do you care about that at all?
I don't care about that at all. In fact, I hope they bury him in the AHL and we never see him in the NHL ever again. Jerry, some old faces are going to represent Canada in Beijing on the curling circuits. Who are they?
Well, old in respect to that they've been there before is Jennifer Jones, who's 47 years old, will be representing Canada. She won back in 2014 when she went undefeated, so to speak. And Brad Goucher, remember when he was with Russ Howard? They won in 2006. He's 41 years old now. Both of them be representing Canada on the ice on the curling sheet in Beijing. The Bulls and the Heat from the NBA, Chris, have been penalized by losing picks. Why?
Tampering, Jerry. Lonzo Ball in Chicago, Kyle Lowry in Miami, saying that these sign and trade deals that were in place before before the trades actually happened, league investigated. Now they're being penalized. You got a strong opinion about NBA coaches' apparel, Jerry. What's that?
I'm sick and tired of them walking around in these gym suits. It started when they were in Orlando. Remember when they had the abbreviated season during COVID in 2020? But they continue to wear these gym suits instead of a shirt and tie, blazer, whatever. It's time to change back, boys. Let's get back to wearing something other than a gym suit on the sidelines in the NBA.
Jerry, we're going to shut her down. We're out of time. We want to thank everybody for watching this week. Hope you guys had a good time. We'll see you next Thursday.